Hey, welcome back everyone. Happy Thursday to everybody out there. I hope you're all having an amazing week so far. There's been a lot of things going on right now when it comes to Star Wars, between the upcoming TV shows, the movies, and the Disney executives, the board, and Bob Iger and their shakeup, and exactly how they plan on really course-correcting the franchise and really just bringing it back to the basics to really focus strictly on what John, Dave, and as well as Tony Gilroy and what they're all doing with the future of the franchise. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support, and let's get right into the subject. Now, we know that everything related to The Mandalorian Season 3 and how that got a lot of backlash, a lot of fan criticism. We've seen John and Dave addressing that criticism endlessly, and as it turns out, yes, Kathleen Kennedy did have a hand in the script, but not during filming. But once you're filming, you know, the damage is already done. There's not much you can really do, besides a couple of reshoots at most. Now, when you look at stuff like this, though, we know that they had a lot of original ideas and plans for Mandalorian Season 3 that went either unfinished or got cut from the script or even got cut from the actual final cut. And there's been a lot of changes that have been happening over at Lucasfilm, and a lot of those changes had a lot to do with Season 3 of Mando. Now, let's tap right into this. Now, with Disney and Lucasfilm preparing to make multiple announcements in the coming months for Star Wars. However, recently actor Pedro Pascal went on to reveal some big news to fans involving The Mandalorian Season 3. Pedro went on to state the following to the entire community. Earlier in production, when we were working on Season 3's script, we had full plans to bring back Temuera Morrison as Boba Fett. In fact, we were going to have both Din and Boba working together as a team toward the end of Season 3 on Mandalore. It was going to be big. Both John and Dave were having a blast writing his character and the scenes he was going to be involved in. They had these fight sequences written between Din and, of course, both Moff Gideon as well as Boba Fett. It was just going to be intense, but Kathleen Kennedy felt it was too over the top and a little bit too action-packed, with too many characters, and decided to cut Boba Fett out of the story. So again, guys, Pedro's making a very interesting point here, because I don't know if you guys felt the same as me. When watching the Season 3 finale, it did feel like something was missing there. Like something was supposed to pop in and make a big surprise cameo or an appearance or something like that. Something was missing, something was off, and this is most certainly making things make more sense now. So, obviously, Kathleen Kennedy intervened. She decided that Morrison did not deserve the role for Boba Fett in Season 3, and this is exactly why Morrison was very, much calling Disney out a couple of weeks ago. How he never got the call, or how, he was annoyed also about how Disney threw in Din Djarin into the Book of Boba Fett and stole his show, essentially for 2 whole, maybe even 3 episodes. And so, a lot of fans have realized that that was all Kathleen Kennedy as well, by the way. She pressured that on John and Dave and Robert Rodriguez to do that. But overall, the next thing that I do want to actually cover here is that Morrison did say that he was completely snubbed, that he was ignored by Disney, that they never gave him the call. He kept waiting and waiting, and he just never got that call that he was waiting for. And it's just unfortunate that that's the way things turned out. So Pedro Pascal goes on to elaborate things further. He states, "I think this is why fans have been telling us they felt Boba's presence was meant to be there, and I can confirm that is correct. Morrison never got the call to really film anything. Nothing was filmed. It's just that we had scenes written for him that Kathy felt it was best to give Boba a rest after the Book of Boba Fett, and also felt that Boba was going to steal Din Djarin's story or show." Again, guys, that makes no sense at all, because look at what they did with the Book of Boba Fett, right? Din Djarin came in, took a whole episode away from Boba Fett, and even technically a second episode when he was visiting Luke, right? So, it really is a little hypocritical for Kathleen Kennedy to think that way, of the fact that if Boba came in, it would be stealing Din's story, when Din and his story, I feel, was losing focus because of Bo-Katan. Now look, I get it, Bo-Katan was meant to save Mandalore, I get that side story and such, but she was a little overused, and it was a little bit of a bait and switch from Din's focus and Grogu's focus. You know, I know some fans may not agree with me on that, and hey, that's perfectly fine, we all have our opinions, but I just felt it was a sharp focus on Bo-Katan way too quickly. They could have built it up a little bit more slower to where it wasn't so sudden, is all I'm saying. So the next thing here is that he says, it's just that we had scenes written for him that Kathy felt it was best to break focus from Boba Fett and fighting Boba Fett's side with Din Djarin against the troopers led by Gideon. It's sad that it didn't work out that way, but it is what it is, and you just have to roll with it and do what you're told. I was actually upset to not work with Morrison again. It would have been a blast for sure. I know John and Dave were let down too about that change. It was going to be simply epic for the audience. Boba was going to actually have some pretty amazing stunts in this big finale. It was just upsetting that we never filmed any of it at all. Now again, Pedro makes a couple of good points. As much as, you know, I am a little skeptical about Kathleen Kennedy and what she's doing with Acolyte and Skeleton Crew already and what she did with Pedro. We talked about that whole situation. What she should have done is she should have left Boba Fett in there regardless of the criticism of the Book of Boba Fett and really not play things too safely. She should have just doubled down and said, let's make Boba Fett better. Let's make him the epic character that he really is. And it just seems like that they don't want to do that at all. It almost seems like she sabotaged John and Dave's treatment on purpose. That's what it comes across as to me. I don't know about you guys, but the fact that John and Dave had this all written out and it was later sabotaged by Kennedy because she felt it was going to be too many characters in one sitting, to me it doesn't make sense. I mean, you already had a lot of characters in there to begin with. You know, you had Paz Vizsla, you had Bo-Katan, you had of course, you had Din Djarin, you had Grogu, you had all these characters in there. I don't think Boba Fett's presence would have been too concerning, or wouldn't really have crowded things up at all that much than it was. So, obviously, it would have made sense to throw in Boba Fett. You know, bring in Slave 1. And you know, it's funny because Pedro's calling it the fire spray. I don't know about you guys. To me, Boba Fett's fighter will always and always will be the Slave 1. I will never call it anything else. That's what it's called. So overall, it's interesting to say the least that we could have had such an epic finale that would have added more value to the Battle of Mandalore between Moff Gideon, Boba Fett, and Din Djarin. I think that would have been amazing. It would have been something truly stunning. And the fact that they just wanted to completely erase that, we're talking about Kathy Kennedy here, of course, is just irresponsible to me. They had a shot to really improve Boba Fett himself as a character, and they missed it. So overall, guys, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.